Welcome back to the Aruba Investment Summit. I hope you were able to find your way around the platform and have made some interesting connections. Next up, I would like to introduce Mr. Daniele Ferrara. He is the CEO of Gianni's group. Mr. Ferrara will join me for a fireside chat where we will talk about his successful investments in Aruba that have incorporated sustainability. I would like to remind you once more that after the session with Mr. Ferrara, we will be hosting another Q&A session. So please drop your questions in the Q&A section of the chat box. Daniele Ferrara was born here in Aruba to an Aruban mother and an Italian father. After attending the International School of Aruba, he continued his studies of culinary arts and food service management at the University of Johnson and Wales in the USA. Daniele is currently the managing director of Gianni's Group, a locally established holding company with management of over 20 diverse companies, with history back to 1985. Currently guiding 400 employees operating different restaurant properties, food and beverage production, distribution, investments in real estate, and property management. His background extends to nightclub services here on the island and recently agriculture and livestock farms. This is Daniele Ferrara. Daniele, thank you for being with us today. Could you tell me something about yourself? What would you like to say other than this bio that I just introduced for you?
More to say than the bio. Well, something interesting that was in the bio, but it is not 100% complete, is I did actually go to culinary school, but I didn't actually finish for a very not smart reason. Yeah.
Okay. And how did you actually get started in this industry that you're in now?
So from very young, from 1985, my family was always in the food and beverage industry, in the restaurant industry. And then I think in 86, I think is when we got status apartes here in Aruba. And that's when kind of tourism started to building up. And they were in basically the restaurant industry. And so basically from growing up very young, I've always been around restaurants and hospitality.
Okay, so this is a family business, actually.
Yeah, it's a family business. In the beginning, it wasn't only a family business. It was a partnership business of a group of different partners. But now, for the past, basically, about maybe 8 years, it's been a pretty complete family business.
Family business.
Yeah.
And how is that for you, driving a family business here in Aruba and in the tourism sector?
Well, tourism sector is interesting to me. I've always been interested in hospitality. I've always been interested in F&B. I'm very passionate about food, so that kind of goes automatically. But family business is definitely interesting. I think we had a summit about 4 or 5 years ago where that was actually one of the questions that a lot of people have is about family business. And I didn't think actually that it's something that's so important because for us it's kind of an automatic thing. We don't actually think about the dynamic and how to put it together and how to make it function. It just kind of happens automatically. But it is definitely something that's interesting. There are no boring days. You do have to be, as a director, I'm working with my family, so they're my employees, but at the same time, some of my family is also owners, stakeholders, shareholders in the company, so they're also my boss. And, and that is a very, very interesting way to manage, and just it's always interesting. And then more than the immediate family, which we're basically 5, we're 3 brothers, a sister, and my mom. We have about 16 family members that are all dispersed throughout the entire organization, and that is also interesting. But it is something that is probably one of the other reasons why I'm very passionate about what I do, and I think it's also a really big reason why we're successful as well.
All right, and I'm also reading here that you are aside from the restaurant industry, or being in restaurants, the nightclub, and agriculture and livestock.
Yeah.
Can you tell us how you got into these 3 industries?
Um, the agriculture, livestock, and what else? What is
The
the third one?
nightclub.
So nightclub actually is funny because I came down to Aruba when I was 22 after studying in the States, and I came into a family restaurant business, um, and we actually had this empty location behind our Johnny's in Palm Beach, and that was actually, to be honest, the first business that I did, really, I don't want to say by myself, but it was kind of led by me and my brothers and sister. And it wasn't something that we inherited. And that was actually very interesting. We did that for about 5 to 7 years. Yeah, I was 22. I just came down to Aruba. I was actually aspiring more to be in the United States than in Aruba, because America has so many opportunities, and you're going to university there, and it's different. And then when you come down to Aruba, sometimes a lot of the students that leave Aruba to get an education outside, there's not as many opportunities outside of Aruba as there are in Aruba sometimes, depending on your perspective. And so, I was here and, 22, 23 years old, and, there was this very large space. And back then, nightclubbing in Aruba was basically bars, beach bars, and, just regular bars. And I think my first experience I'd actually gone to Vegas, and I went to Colombia, to Bogota, and when I saw basically nightclubs in these two different cities, and I thought that would be something, interesting to have in Aruba, and something that we really missed. And we launched that, and I think the first 6 months was very crazy, very, 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 very crazy. We didn't make any money, but we had a lot of people as customers, and then it took us and me really about 6, 7 months to kind of find my stability. And then, we did about 5 or 6 years, extremely successful. And then, of course, you get a little bit older, and nightclub business is really fun, but at the same time, there's also other parts of it that are not so fun, especially the working until 4 or 5, 6 o'clock in the morning. And then we kind of had to think about what are we going to do with this space, and I think we focused back on our core competence and a core passion, which is F&B, and that's where we basically went into Asian cuisine, so Asia.
Yeah, Asia. Yeah. No, definitely. When you're working in nightclubs, and it really you have to be there, and it takes a lot from you.
Exactly.
So I think that's also a really great transition, because this new restaurant is also doing very well. And
it took a few years, because when you look at business and you look at let's say if you take a certain sector of business, let's take restaurants, for example. You go to culinary school, and in culinary school you basically learn that there is a foundation that is very similar in basically all restaurants around the world and all gastronomy. Same thing when you go to business administration school. I think they teach you. I've never been to a business administration school, but what I get from people that I've worked with is they give you the foundation for business. But then each business is different. They have different technicality parts. So basically, we did start with the Asian cuisine, but we don't have Asian background. We have an Italian and Arubian background. So to be honest, in the beginning, it was definitely a lot of fun. It was a very large investment. And I think the first 6 months we did extremely well. Then after that, we kind of normalized. So the first 6 months is really it's something new. Everybody wants to taste it. Everybody wants to be there. But then after those 6 months, that's kind of when things started to normalize, and you started to actually see the real progression of the restaurant. And it actually took about 4 years, about 4 to 5 years, for it to actually turn out a profit and become successful. And what's sometimes to me is really interesting is Asia was always struggling in the first 4 or 5 years, and it wasn't until COVID that COVID hit last year that the restaurant just exploded. It just exploded, and it was something that we really didn't know why, or why it became so successful. But basically, by last year, October, November, we were already out of subsidy. So we were already selling more than we were in 2019. in the middle of the COVID crisis.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and that was something that was, it was just so surprising. But I have to say that a lot of people in the organization came together and had been supporting it for the, for the whole 4 or 5 years. And I think all of that support and all of that, everybody putting their best in, is what really just made it, skyrocket in last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, that was
Well,
interesting.
that's an uplifting story to hear, actually. And what about the agriculture and livestock? How did you get into that?
So agriculture and livestock, basically during COVID, obviously hit us extremely hard because we're a tourism-based company. And we went from 100% sales to literally like 0.01%. And that was basically for about 4 months. And we really had to start to think about what else can we do and how can we diversify. And by making that decision of going into agriculture, I think all of Aruba was very interested in going into agriculture because we're trying to be more self-sustainable. We realized how big of an impact, we were going through when we get hit by a crisis and how depending we are on so many other countries and people outside of Aruba. So we really thought that it was a smart investment. And then a few months after that, the restaurants started to basically open back up, tourism started to come back in, and a decision had to kind of be made, are we going to leave this? Are we going to drop it and continue in what we had previously? Or are we going to keep on investing in it and, have this idea grow? And it was I think it was in about August or September, I think last year, where Aruba had a circular economy conference. And it was, and I was very interested in it because I never heard of circular economies. Again, I went to culinary school, so I wanted to hear about it, understand it, and then we basically sponsored the event, and we actually were able to get these speakers to actually come into our company and do kind of like a personal, a custom seminar just for our employees. And I think that is what really opened our company, especially my eyes, and seeing how to look at different products and how to look at services and how to look at business. Because in Aruba, you really you kind of look at a certain piece of a business. You don't look at the entire life. So circular economies helped us definitely look into that. And then we've realized that we actually had a great customer for livestock and agriculture, and that was basically ourselves. And so in the beginning, it still is a lot of work. There's still a lot of things that we're learning, but we're actually using all of these products, in our restaurants. And it started really simple, with chickens, to be honest. It just started with chicken and eggs. And then chicken and eggs became, basil, and then basil became eggplant, and then tomatoes, and then melons, and then pumpkin, and then bananas. And then everything just started to, grow. And we have a group of people in our company that are really passionate about farming. And, we're using all these products in our company. And it's one, of course, you're sustainable. And then second, your profit margins are increasing. You're giving opportunities to people that are really passionate about that business. And you're basically supporting them to having them grow. So I think about a month ago, we had this space set up. And it has been about 10 months, and I hadn't visited. And about a month ago, I actually, went to the farm, and it just like exploded in products and produce and the livestock, and the chickens and everything. And it was just incredible. And in the beginning, I think you think that's so far-fetched, and you can't do that. It's too much work, and it's so far away, and it's so difficult. But it actually, it's a lot easier than you think.
Okay.
Yeah, so
I think that's very beautiful that, even in the middle of the pandemic, you would invest in your people and empower them as well, and think about the bigger picture. And I think as an Agile coach, I'm all about like empowering your employees and having them free up their creativity, and look how well it's paying off as well for your company. I think that's really great.
Yeah, there's I think my role, what's also interesting, something that a lot of people don't know about me, is I actually never wanted to be an owner in a company or a managing director. I actually wanted to be a part of a very large organization in the United States. And I just felt that being part of an organization allows you to possibly, of course, depending which organization, allows you to have access to resources and allows you to be creative and grow. And at the same time, you don't have to carry that responsibility of owning that whole group and responsible for all these employees and taxes and all this kind of stuff. Which when things are great and profit margins are up, it's amazing. But then when COVID hits and you don't have any money to pay, employees or, there's no tourism, that's when I guess the negative part of being an owner in a company or a managing director in a company comes forth. So it's crisis management, and that's not something that I really was trying to avoid. And then of course COVID happened, so I was forced into it. I do think we did manage it pretty well, but that's basically been my role in the organization is supporting people that are in the company to kind of diversify and go in different directions and learn about their passions that they have or find out the passions that they have and then basically support them and let them grow in that direction.
All right. And do you have other aspirations as for like circular economy, because now you're producing, you're using it, and do you have
so the reason I think the reason that we are successful, especially now in diversification, is because we believe extremely strongly, or I believe extremely strongly, the family also believes strongly in education. And at the beginning, it's very difficult because people are not so open to learning new things, especially in Aruba, when that hasn't been the atmosphere on the island. Now, of course, because of the internet, TikTok, Instagram, education is everywhere, inspiration is everywhere. So people are definitely getting more aware, but at the same time, I think people are very cautious as well because a lot of times through the internet, you're not 100% sure what is right and what is wrong. And I think that's where some people get a little bit lost. So I think for me, for myself personally, education is a really important thing. And I think, the type of entrepreneur that I've been in the past 14 years, probably in the future, is going to go more in the direction of social entrepreneurship on the island. Because I see there's a lot of need and a lot of opportunity as well in that same area.
Right. And where would you say you would find your inspiration and creativity?
Previously, well, even presently also, definitely, traveling, but also, to be honest, it's funny because, I was not a big believer in WhatsApp, and then I got WhatsApp, and then I didn't want Facebook, and then I got Facebook, and then I didn't want Instagram, and then I got Instagram, and then in the pandemic, I had some friends that had TikTok, and I was like, I'm 35 years old. When am I going to be looking into, TikTok? It just doesn't make sense because my nephews that are, 6 and 7 and 10 and 12, they're in TikTok. And to be honest, you can actually get a lot of inspiration there as well. But to be honest, the people that are around me, when you're able to, I think, talk to people and then support them and then listen to what their thoughts, are and what they want and what they're passionate about and what they like and what direction they want to go into, that I learn a lot from that. So I'm actually inspired a lot from people that are around me. But literally everything, anybody, and anything around me, I'm gonna get inspired.
I think it's great that I would say you're a very receptive leader in that way, and I think that helps you a lot as well. You seem to be open to other people's ideas and learning new things.
Yeah.
And
that
was golden.
That was something. I remember when I had first come down to Aruba when I was 22. I just finished school and I had all these ideas and I wanted to come and I wanted to, that's what happens when you finish university and you're living outside and you come in and you want to change the entire world and you want to change it like tomorrow. I think the biggest thing that has helped make me stronger as a person and also successful in our company and organization was I wanted to actually open a restaurant at one time, and I had an amazing deal. It was just a crazy deal in a property in Aruba, and it didn't start out amazing, but I kept on working on it every 3 or 4 months, and the deal would just get better and better and better. And it was almost like I could open the restaurant for free, basically. And my parents actually at that time told me that no, that I shouldn't do the business, and I didn't understand why, because I had gone to culinary school and I'd always been in the restaurant business, and they said something to me that was. It actually made sense, and because of that, I listened. So I asked, after I got this amazing deal for us, my mom said, I asked her why is this not the right opportunity for us, and she said because I've been in the business for 40 years, and your father's been in the business for 40 years, and together we have about 80 years of experience, and because of that, you should listen, and that actually, it made a lot of sense to think that. And then one of the things that I didn't want, and I think nobody wants, you don't want to be taken advantage of, you don't want to make mistakes. And I think when she told me that, I thought that's actually kind of cool, because I could have an 80-year advantage on everybody else that is going into the market right now. And I value, that she said that, and then I constantly, always use them both for advice and making decisions. And then I actually realized there's so many people around us as well that are much older and that have been through so many different facets in life, and they have so much information. So I would spend a lot of time talking to people in our restaurants, people that are customers. And just talk to them and listen to what they've been through in their life and the decisions that they've made, and would they do this and would they do that, and just really take their advice and and implement it. And it's not easy all the time, because sometimes you have this amazing idea and you really want to do it. And as a leader, a lot of people, if you say, hey, let's paint this blue, a lot of times people will just say yes to do it because they want to make you happy, because you're the boss and you're the leader. But then, I really value the people that tell me, I think that's a horrible idea. And it hurts sometimes because you're really, you want to do this. But actually, those are the people that really give you perspective and actually help you the most in growing and becoming better. Yeah.
That's nice.
Yeah.
And what would you say are some of your company's core values?
Previously, this was very funny, because previously, before COVID, we had some core values. We had transparency was a big one, integrity, respect, personal growth, and every time I sat with advisors, they would always tell me, what is your mission? What's your vision? What's your values? And it started being annoying, because I was just someone that just worked and just moved forward, and I didn't think about these things. So, I did take, about a week, and I spent time studying and learning and going on YouTube and finding out what is a vision, what's a mission, what's your values. And I said, okay, these are what's important for me. And, we have them on a wall in our company, and we have them, in our websites and things. But they were really just kind of always there, but they were just there. And they're things that for me are automatic. It's not automatic for everybody, but for me, it was very automatic. And I didn't really understand the value of the values until COVID hit. And because when COVID hit, it was just a crazy time, and nobody really knew what to do. And we had to make decisions. And thank God I had some advisors that said, Daniel, when you're going to make the decisions, this is why you have mission statements. This is why you have values, specifically for this time, for crisis management. So it was interesting. So I said, okay, so I'm going to go to my values. And then we had to make decisions, very difficult decisions. And when I was looking at something that we had to do, I would look back at those values and I say, okay, is this being transparent? And then, no, it wasn't being transparent. So we said, you know what, let's stick to that, and let's just give it all out there. It's going to be the truth. Not everybody is going to be, for it, and maybe they're not going to understand it, and maybe some people are not going to accept it, and maybe not even believe it. But that is the truth. And we used those values as a guideline during the entire crisis to kind of make decisions and to communicate. And I think it worked out really, really, really well for us. After COVID, I did realize as well that the values that we had that we had decided on, they worked great before COVID, but I think that some of the values really are not for the future. So COVID, of course, has a lot of bad things to it, but it also has a lot of great things. And one of the great things is that it gave us an opportunity to, really reorganize, restructure legally, tax-wise, operationally, people. I mean, we were really able to kind of renovate the entire body of our company because of COVID. And part of that was values. And when we had our values, we changed some of them. And, for example, integrity and transparency, they kind of are aligned with each other. So we kind of, we got rid of integrity, but we did stay with transparency. Personal growth was something that just I've always wanted for the first 14 years, and it's something that I think we finally instilled in the company, and people they know that they can grow in the company. So we took that out as well because it's already automatic. And then we found these new values, which the company voted on as well, which was about wellness and service. And I really think the future of business is and taking those into consideration. Yeah.
Nice. And you said you already talked about why you were diversifying your investments. Was there anything else? Is it just the COVID pandemic that opened your eyes, or was it something already on the horizon?
It was already on the horizon before COVID. I was already looking to diversify. We had already started diversifying as well, but it was, an organic and slow diversification. I'm not, in a rush. I think I'm still young. So I really took my time to, kind of grow and learn. But I also want to enjoy the past hard work of the 14 years, especially after the nightclub closed, after Confessions closed. Up to when Confessions closed, those 8 or 9 years were so hard work. It was just crazy because sometimes I would be coming in, 10 a.m. in the morning, and I would finish like 7, 8 o'clock in the morning the next day, and then we would do that repeatedly, day after day. And and whenever there was parties, whenever there was events, I could never be at those parties, events, because I had to be working in the nightclub. Yeah. So when that finally closed, that gave me the opportunity to kind of, all the work that I had done for all those years, I could finally, start to enjoy it. And then I did start looking at things at a different perspective, and I started thinking, okay, I think we should start diversifying. What COVID did was, locked me in Aruba for a year. And if you put me in a place for 1 year and don't let me go anywhere, it's going to be really difficult for me to just sit still. And definitely for about 6 months, I literally learned to not only diversify, but also work with almost nothing because there was no revenue. And, you can take a hotel, I'll give you an example. You can take a hotel like the Marriott in Aruba. The Marriott in Aruba is probably, a $400, $500 million building. The value of that building is only determined by the tourists that are coming to Aruba. So if there are no tourists in Aruba, it could be a bunker. So those 4 months really were extremely insightful, interesting, a lot of hard work. But COVID really pushed innovation in our company, in myself as well, education-wise, to go into a lot of different sectors. And I think that's not something that happened only with me. I think that's something that happened with a lot of companies all around the world. And I think you're going to see the fruits of that work in the next, 4 or 5 years from all around the world. Nice.
And how would you say, is sustainability and innovation compatible with any investment, or what's your look on that?
Absolutely, 100%. I think right now we have a coworker that is getting a degree in Europe, and part of her education is specifically about the future of business. And I believe that, if you're not sustainable in the next, 30, 40 years, you're probably, not going to be existing either as a business. So long-term sustainability, you have to consider it. You have to put it into your company. And then digitalization and innovation. One of the things that I recently heard that really, and why I believe so much in education in Aruba, with COVID and, everything that has happened in Aruba with the Landspaket and Holland and everything. I remember there was one time a discussion about dollarization, in Aruba. And I remember there was this one comment in a group chat that I saw. And the person said, because I believe, we should change to a different, change to electronic currency. I think Aruba should go cashless. That should be the goal for the next, 8 years. But, there was a comment that said, I really don't want to lose my florin, and I really want to hold on to it because it is ours and it's our culture, which I understand. But at the same time, when parts of the world are going electronic and countries don't even have cash anymore, that's what the future is. So I think we need to be aware of what's happening around the world and what direction the world is going in. And these are great things to have, currencies, but at the same time, it is also a part of the past. And I don't see, the world in 30 years still, walking around with wads of cash and all this kind of stuff.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm not sure I have an exact position on that, but I have to say that because I've lived in the Netherlands for so long, every time I have to take out cash here, it's like, oh God, yeah, I need cash again. I know.
Yeah, exactly.
I never have any with me.
Yeah. It's just,
So
it's safer. And in Aruba, I'm part of the Aruba Food and Beverage Association. I'm also part of the Chamber of Commerce. And one of the big problems we have in Aruba is equality in business, and everybody paying their fair share of tax. And Aruba is a really large cash-based economy, and if we were able to go in an electronic direction, I think that could solve so many problems for the island and its income.
I think that part definitely has its merit.
Yeah.
So Daniel, what would you say is the biggest challenge facing investors or business leaders today in Aruba?
So I saw that the summit is about. I know that you have Aruban viewers. I know that you have international viewers also. And I think the biggest challenges is really communication is a big one. Speed, the way things are changing, is also another one. The time you want to do by the time you want to actually go and do something, if someone else is doing it, or the world is moving so quickly, and you get anxious, to keep up with everybody. But I think research in who you want to work with and really taking time to do due diligence. For international investors, there's a great amount of companies that are lawyers and accounting firms and tax firms that can give you the best advice as to how to do your investments and what are the best structures to put in place. And then there's a lot of advisors in Aruba, professional advisors that can help you, get the right partnerships as well to move forward. But I do think that really doing your due diligence in, if you're trying to look for an investment, and then also more so for the Aruban investors that are here, the citizens, I think doing research and really understanding what it is exactly you want, because I noticed that the title of the summit is Creating Wealth in Aruba, and it's so easy to think creating wealth means creating a lot of money in Aruba and having a lot of houses or having a boat and things like that. And that's not necessarily true for everybody. I'll give you a very simple example. For me, wealth is about time. I like to have time. So, and I'm willing to sacrifice, capital or finance and liquidity because of that, so I'm able to have time. And for some people, wealth is health, and for some people, wealth is, actual money and maybe properties and businesses. But I think if you're an investor, you do need to understand what type of investor you are, and also what type of return you're looking for. And then if you are a business person in Aruba, I think you're also going to be looking, what type of entrepreneur are you? Are you looking into do retail? Are you going into products? Are you going into research, innovation? Are you going into like I talked about social entrepreneurship. So really understanding who you want to be and making the right decision. And it's fine that in the next 5 years you change that, or in 6 months you say, no, I don't like this anymore. I want to be an angel investor. I don't want to be a partner. It's fine to change your mind. There is no right and there is no wrong. But I think taking the time to do that research and understand it and find out, and then kind of moving forward.
Yeah, so it's a lot of self-awareness, basically, as an investor.
Yeah.
And I can definitely relate with what you say about time, because for me as well, I think that's why I mostly became an entrepreneur. But sometimes it's the other way around, because I end up working more, but I really wanted to be the master of my time.
Yeah.
But I have a growing family, and I like to be there for them, and if I can just manage my time around the time that my daughter sleeps, then that for me is wealth as well. So
yeah, exactly.
I have that. So that's great. Thank you. I would like to remind our viewers, so please fill in your questions in the Q&A form, so I can ask Daniel. I see I already have some coming in. Let me see. So, here's an interesting question. So actually today we're sitting in downtown Oranjestad. For those of you who don't know. And the person is asking, how do you see the development of downtown Oranjestad?
The downtown Oranjestad. So we actually had business in downtown Oranjestad in the 90s, when it was flourishing. And then we actually had business recently as well. That didn't close because of the pandemic, closed before that, because it was just very difficult for business in downtown. One thing that everybody, I think, has to be very aware is that commerce, business never stays in one place forever. It always moves in every single country all around the entire world. So, 50 years, 60 years ago, it was in San Nicolas with the refinery. Then it moved maybe down a little bit to Savaneta. Then it came downtown. Now it's in Palm Beach. It'll move from Palm Beach as well. There will always be a lingering business, I think, in Palm Beach, because there's so many hotels present there. But I do think that commerce will move as well. And I don't, think that downtown right now is the immediate future. But I do think if you're willing to make investments in residential investments downtown, I think that's the way to go. I think, platforms like Airbnb, Booking, Hotels.com, they've all created this huge possibility for so many Arubans now to own real estate and then lease it with all the tourists coming in. But at the same time, don't ignore the fact that this market is becoming huge, and there's also a market for local residencies. And that market is becoming, tighter, and there's a lot of opportunity there as well. So I think, downtown is an amazing location. They just finished this, really beautiful property, the Harbor House next to, Royal Plaza. Cruise ships, eventually will start to come back as well. So I just think, it takes people to, believe in those ideas and invest. And I think that downtown, with the right investments, which should not be that complicated, I think it can be extremely successful.
Thank you for that. Yeah, I also believe that you need more people coming here, and having converting some things into residential areas would definitely help. And Danielle, you already talked about how you implemented sustainability in your investments in terms of it being, you looked at the life cycle of your business, basically.
Yeah.
Is there anything? Are you doing any? Do you have any other sustainable practices?
The biggest practice, so innovation and sustainability comes with education. And there's so much focus on education, because I think about 4 or 5 years ago, we went to this, it was called, in Amsterdam, it was called the Unleash Conference. So we went to this conference, and it was basically about human resources and technology. And It was an amazing conference. People from all over the world go there, and you have different seminars. And I was in one seminar, and this, executive guy from IBM was talking in this conference, and he was talking about digitalization. He was talking about artificial intelligence, and I think this was in 2018 or 2018, I think, 17, 18. And he was basically talking about if you have not become digitalized by 2020, then you can basically like close your business. That's the way he kind of put it out there. And to me, it was like, what are you talking about? We're still working with pen and paper. And I got really stressed out. Because here these guys are talking about artificial intelligence, and we're still working, calculating stuff with calculators and stuff. And when I went into the big part, the exhibition part of the conference, there was so much software, there was so many programs for human resources and just for business. And again, I didn't go to school for technology or computer science or business management. I went to school for culinary arts. And I was overwhelmed with all this information. And I'm, coming down to Aruba, I actually said, the only way we're going to be able to do this is actually if we get an innovation officer in our company. And the innovation officer, today has an innovation development department in our company, because making the right decisions, doing the right research to finding out what are the programs that are going to use your company and are going to help you diversify and become larger and invest in a lot of different things. You need knowledge to make the right decisions. And then even if you do make the right decisions, you also need a support in your organization or your company, whether you're 5 people working or you're 100 people working or 1,000 people working, to guide everybody. I'm not a tech savvy person, but once I do find once it does click with me, it might take a year, it might take 6 months, it might take 2 years. We had this program that just now, after 2 years, it finally clicked with me. But I was very consistent and just learning and going into it. And now I can't imagine our life without it. And so we really think, so I think for us in COVID, we opened all these different companies. I think we were about 12 companies before COVID, and then we turned into 20 companies during COVID. And the big question mark for me was, how am I going to be able to diversify and open more companies without hiring more people? That was the biggest thing, because even before COVID, there was a lack of labor. The labor market was tight in Aruba. There wasn't availability, and what was available, didn't have that education to come work in your type of organization. So it was really difficult, and I knew that that's a problem that we are going to face again in the next few months when our tourism is back to the way it's supposed to be. So it's great to diversify, but also understand that if you don't have the people to diversify, or you don't have the systems put in place to help you diversify without having to hire another 100 people, then it's gonna backfire. So that was really the biggest part of innovation during COVID, and even it's ongoing now, is finding programs that can help us do our jobs quicker and really get rid of the, I guess like the dirty administration job, the punching in numbers and the controlling. There are systems and there is so much software nowadays that can do basically everything for you. And if you don't understand them or you don't know where to look for them, you find the people that can help you and give you advice to find them. So, but that is really the thing that has kind of pushed us forward, and that's where sustainability is actually the biggest in our organization. So the more digital things we have, obviously the less paper we're printing, the less impact we have on the environment. So yeah, that's what we're focusing on.
Okay, thanks. That's very nice. And Daniel, that's a little bit more personal, I guess. Do you remember any specific experience while working at Gianni's group that you would say, I wish I had done this differently? Is anything that...
I wish I had done this differently. I don't think so. And the only reason I say that is because I don't know if you want to call them mistakes, but I have done a lot of mistakes. I've opened businesses that, not all the businesses were successful. And sometimes I've worked with people and the relationship didn't go the way it was supposed to. And I've had business deals with people that it didn't go to the way it was supposed to. But the decisions that I always made in those situations, I always assumed responsibility for them. Even if someone else would say, "Oh my God, that was crazy," what that person did or that person did, I always assumed that it was my own fault or responsibility why that thing happened, and it wasn't to take fault on myself, but it was to allow me to grow and move forward. So I would really look at things from different perspectives, and I like a lot problem solving. I really like problem solving a lot. So there's a really simple example I use so many times in seminars and talking to people. We have a restaurant. We obviously have food. We have very expensive food. We do have lobster and steaks and stuff. And so many people have always heard about the employee that comes into that company and steals a piece of steak and then leaves that restaurant. And it's so simple to say, that person came into your company and he stole something and then he left, and obviously it's his fault and he lost his job. That's what they call obstand de voet in Aruba. But if you look at the problem from maybe different perspectives, where you say, did you have an inventory control? Did you have cameras to actually check in that space so you could not avoid those type of things from happening? Did you know the person that you were hiring was in a very difficult economic situation and needed, maybe money to feed their family? Did that person know that they could actually, talk to the company about getting financial aid to support them? And, when you look at things from a different perspective, you find that the simple way is, he or she took it and left and he stole something. But then when you give it from a different perspective, you say, okay, well, maybe if, you talked to the person a little bit more, you knew where they were coming from, you could have helped them and you could have avoided that situation. And maybe the atmosphere that was in where he was working wasn't the one that was going to avoid that type of situation from happening. So really, I try my best to look at different perspectives of every type of business. In COVID, we closed 2 businesses and we sold 2 properties to help the company with liquidity and to be stronger financially. It wasn't fun to close a business, but I do look at things, so I try to look at everything circular. So I try to say, okay, yes, we're going into something, but I also look at the way I'm coming out of something as well. So many people, I think when they go into business, they just dive into the company. And something that I learned recently is, when you're on a catamaran in Boca Catalina and you jump off the catamaran, what is the first thing you do? The first thing you do is you pop your head out of the water and you look, where's the shoreline, and you look, where's the catamaran? Because you don't want to be left at sea floating away by yourself. So why don't we do that in business as well? So if we're going to go into business, yeah, it's great to jump into it, and I love this idea, and I want to do this, and I want to do that. But how am I going to get out of that business as well? And that's something that I'm very careful about, because I don't want to get into something and then in 5-10 years be like, oh my God, why am I here? And it's because I thought it was this, and then it turned into something else. So I'm always going in really hoping that I have the space to maneuver myself and get out as well. Giant Group is a great company, and I love the organization. I love my family. I love the employees. But at the same time, I also know that I have a lifespan in that company, and I'm actually my top priority is always thinking about not how I go in more and how I diversify more. It's actually how do I get out. And
Okay, that's an interesting take on it as well.
Yeah,
because it makes you think a little bit further.
Yeah.
About your business, and also I think it helps you also take an outsider's perspective of what makes your company valuable.
Yeah.
As well.
Yeah.
So I think that's really, really great that you try to look at it that way. What is, for our viewers out there, potential investors, what is one practical piece of advice that you would give someone who wants to start a business in Aruba?
I think, take time, and I think talk to people. Talk to the right people. Talk to the people that are in the business that you want to go into already, and get opinions. And um, you know, they say the best way to handle family, especially in a family business, and especially just family in general, is just to always support. So, every time your brother, your sister, anybody comes, you just say yes, 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 support, support. When they come with, the boyfriend or the girlfriend that you really do not want in the family, you still keep on supporting because, they're your family member. And I think that, if you're in a room and you're talking to people about an idea that you have, and everybody's telling you that's amazing, that's great, and you should do it, that's fine. But I think you should also look for someone to tell you the reasons why it's not a good idea. And there is no business that is 100% risk-free. It doesn't exist. So the people that are willing to give you perspectives that are not agreeing with your ideas, I think those are actually the most valuable opinions that you should get. And if someone comes up to you, people come up to me all the time, and some people that I have around me, and they know that I really respect people telling me that Daniel, this is a crappy idea. And then sometimes I'll do the idea anyway, but then I'll do the idea knowing all of the information. And when I do the idea with all the information, when I jump into something, a new business or any diversification, I'm also conscious that it might not go well, and I'm prepared to lose the time and lose the investment, because in the end, one thing that I will never lose is the experience and the learning. That is extremely valuable. A lot of times, people see me in so many different things in Aruba, the association and the board. Previously we were in line for cannabis licensing, and we were investing so much time in getting this license and learning and going to cannabis university and finding out about all this medicine. Again, I'm a culinary arts student, not this pharmaceutical student, and a lot of people say, well, how do you know you're going to get the license or not? Are you going to get the license? Are you not going to get the license? And then there was a lot of backlash also in media. Why am I getting a cannabis license? People thought that I had already gotten it. I didn't get it. Nobody has gotten a cannabis license in Aruba yet because it's not legal yet. But all of that wasn't actually about getting the business. It was actually about learning the whole process. How to deal with government, how to deal with different partners that are not your family members. And there was such a huge expansion of knowledge and learning that happened during these past 4 years in that regards. Now, of course, a great prize at the end was to be actually to get the license. But even if that doesn't happen, there's still so much that was acquired in terms of knowledge, and that will help me, in future businesses as well.
Yeah, that's great. And talking about partners, do you partner with foreign investors for your projects, or?
So again, everything is a cycle. So in the 90s, our family had about 5 or 6 partners. And then when we kind of restarted back in Palm Beach, we had one partner. We were about 50-50 in our organization. That partner was bought out, and then it became a whole solid family business again. And then the past 3 or 4 years, especially during COVID, new partners have come into the organization. Not that they have a very large presence in it, but the beginning of that has begun to happen in the company, in the organization. And I think you should be open to everything. Obviously, there is risk involved with bringing foreign investors or new partners into an organization. So you have to measure the risk and be cautious. But I do believe in partnerships, and I do believe in working with different people. And it does not necessarily have to be people that are bringing money to the table. Money is not the only thing that has value in life. So there's so many reasons to partner up with different people.
I have a compliment for you. What a motivator for Aruba Investment Summit 2021.
Oh, thanks.
And someone was asking, so who is Daniel? So I mean, we introduced you, but I can repeat again. So Daniel is the CEO of Gianni's group, which is a very large organization having how many?
We have
20,
about 20 different companies that are all diverse, restaurants, production, distribution, real estate, stuff.
Yeah. And let's see how many questions more I can get. What kind of circular economy opportunities do you see in Aruba? I see some examples here: designing out waste and pollution, keeping products and materials in use, and regenerating natural systems. What did you see?
So I think now that we've gone into the circular economy idea, it's really amazing. I think that the future of business is so interesting and very exciting as well, because business is no longer about, I believe, being the owner and raking in funds. That's 1990s, 1980s. Now it's about more connection, partners, organizations, and seeing what you can do as being a link in a very large chain of things. And Aruba is so special, I think, because Aruba is small and it has its pros and it has its cons, but what the pro in Aruba is that if you would like to implement a circular economy, it's so much easier, I think, than a huge, large country. But at the same time, whatever effect you do, if it's a wrong implementation, it can have a negative effect as well. So when you go into circular economies and you look at Aruba, there's just so many things you can do with the hotel industry, the tourism industry on the island. And I think ownership in the future is no longer about actually owning something, but ownership around the world is nowadays, it's about leasing, actually. And people that, couldn't stay in a $10 million house 10 years ago can now pay $1,000 a night and stay in that house around the world. So going back to Aruba, I think agriculture and livestock is actually an extremely important one that needs to keep on being supported, because I know in COVID there was all this interest to help support it, but as things go back to the way they were, I feel like it's just kind of maybe let go again. And there really needs to be a lot of support for those two sectors, and I think those two sectors can do amazing things in Aruba. And I do think also for foreign investment, the investors, the foreign investors, but also government together with the foreign investors should look at a different scenario or a different calculation of how to bring these investors on the island. Social investment from corporate companies in Aruba is extremely important and should not be simply let go. And it's smart for them as well. So I don't think it's a big deal for them. I know in the 80s, we kind of, gifted ourselves to these huge hotel corporations to come build. But nowadays, you don't need that, actually. Now they do need us a little bit. And I know there's a lot of opportunities in other countries, Cuba and other islands in the Caribbean and around the world. But I do think that corporations coming into Aruba should bring in corporate social responsibility into the island as well. Taxes is not enough because they're the ones that are using the labor force. They're using the workforce. They're using the local handship, and they should be investing back into it for their own personal, for their own corporate gain as well long term. So a very simple example is, let's take a Marriott. Marriott's been here for 30 years. If there was maybe a few $1 million, which is literally nothing for a corporation like that, to reinvest back into education on the island. Today, 30 years later, they wouldn't have any issues with the labor market, and the people that are working in their companies can be better knowledgeable and can actually make more money for that very own corporation. So I think the social responsibility of any foreign investor has to be taken in consideration, and I think it's just the right thing to do.
Yeah, absolutely. And you do see that, Aruba has so much to give, and Aruba does give a lot. And I think should give Aruba something back too, and you will keep getting more out of it as
Always,
well. And Aruba is, I mean, at the risk of being super patriotic, Aruba is golden, and tourists people always want to come here.
Yes, very special.
We have our warm people, and that's not something you can copy paste anywhere else. So I mean, very aware of having competitors, but I still think we have something very unique here, and we shouldn't underestimate what we have.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Well, Danielle, I would really like to thank you for being here with me today. This has been very great, inspiring, and I'm very happy to learn that we have a very receptive leader in Aruba and such a big company. And I hope you have inspired others as well in thinking more holistically about their business environment. Well, I would say that we had a really great start of this summit, and I actually want to go back to the poll that we had before because I couldn't, for technical reasons, I couldn't see any of the results. So I want to come back to that. So the question that we first had was, what's the first thing that comes to your mind when you hear Aruba? 28% of you said it's friendly people. Some of you voted for its amazing cuisine, about 28.6% as well. And also we had for the votes on one happy island. Well, I mean, people think about the cuisine, so I think that's very great. And yeah, I was talking about its friendly people, and I hope today you learned that Aruba is more than that as well. So we are also an island where we have, there's this booming opportunities in the promising sectors, which is, open for investment. We also learned today about, so the sectors that we are focusing on now for the summit are agriculture, knowledge economy, and logistics. Tomorrow we will hear a bit more about logistics, I think. So, and remember that today is not over yet. We would like to go to another poll, and that is, how would you rate day one of the summit? Can you please raise the poll? See? Oh, sorry. We are having some technical difficulties with the polls, but let me recap for today. And because today is not over yet, I would like to remind you about our program for tomorrow, where we get to know more about specific investment projects in the promising sectors from a host of top local leaders, executives, and entrepreneurs. On Wednesday, we will have Mr. Brad Sugars, the CEO and founder of Action Coach, the #1 business coach in the world. He will be giving a keynote speech. But once again, I'd like to thank our sponsors for their contribution to the event, Action Coach, Aruba, Elite, GDB Digital, and Setar and V. Remember, you can register for one-on-one sessions as well on Thursday and Friday with Arina between 9 a.m. to 3 p.m. It's like a 30-minute session. And in about 15 minutes, you can join the roundtable sessions. Thank you, and I will see you there.